Tae-ho Kim wiped the sweat from his forehead as he worked on the life support system. The mining station was quiet except for the hum of machines. His hands moved quickly over the broken circuits. The air recycler had failed again, and without it, everyone on the station would die in 6 hours. Just need to reroute the power flow, he muttered to himself. His fingers found the right wire. The machine came back to life with a soft whir. Tae-ho smiled. He had been an engineer for 10 years, but fixing things still made him happy. The mining station, Kepler 442b, was far from Earth, sitting on a small asteroid. Only 12 people worked here, digging for rare metals that Earth needed. A loud crash echoed through the station. Tae-ho looked up from his work. That sound was not normal. He put down his tools and walked toward the main corridor. The lights flickered, then went out completely. Emergency red lights came on. "What the hell?" Tae-ho whispered. Another crash, louder this time. The station shook. Tae-ho's heart started beating faster. He ran toward the communication room. He needed to contact the other crew members. But when he turned the corner, he froze. A massive hole had been blown through the station wall. Cold, space air was being held back by an emergency force field. Through the hole, Tae-ho could see a huge ship. It was black and covered in sharp spikes. 3 creatures walked through the hole. They were enormous, at least 8 feet tall. Their skin looked like dragon scales, dark green and shining. They had long tails, clawed hands, and faces that looked like lizards. But they walked on 2 legs like humans. They wore metal armor and carried weapons that glowed with blue energy. Tae-ho had never seen anything like them. His mind struggled to understand what he was looking at. Aliens, real aliens, and they were here. One of the creatures saw him. It pointed a clawed finger in his direction and made a sound like a growl. The other 2 turned to look at Tae-ho. Their eyes were yellow and cold. Tae-ho ran. His feet pounded against the metal floor as he raced through the corridors. Behind him, he could hear the aliens chasing. Their heavy footsteps echoed through the station. He reached the crew quarters and started banging on doors. "Everyone wake up! We're under attack!" he shouted. Bo-Ra Park opened her door first. She was the station's security officer, a small woman but tough. "What's going on, Tae-ho?" "Aliens," he gasped. "Big ones. They look like dragons." Bo-Ra's eyes went wide. She grabbed her weapon from beside her bed. "How many?" "I saw 3, but there might be more." Woo Jin Lee stumbled out of his room, still half asleep. He worked in communications. "Did you say aliens?" The sound of heavy footsteps was getting closer. Bo-Ra pushed both men toward the emergency exit. "Move! We need to get to the escape pods!" They ran through the station, gathering other crew members. Along the way, Captain So-Young Choi joined them, along with Dr. Min-ho Yoon and 8 others. Everyone was scared and confused. They reached the escape pod bay, but their hope died quickly. The pods had been destroyed. Smoking metal was all that remained. "They knew about the pods," Captain Choi said quietly. "This wasn't random. They planned this." A deep voice spoke behind them. "Correct, small ones." They turned around. One of the dragon-like aliens stood in the doorway. It was even bigger up close, its scales gleaming in the emergency lights. When it spoke, its voice was like rocks grinding together. "I am Commander Thekmore of the Vorthak Empire," the creature said. "You are now prisoners of war. More aliens entered the room. They surrounded the humans, weapons pointed at them. The humans had nowhere to run. Captain Choi stepped forward. She was brave, even facing these monsters. "What do you want from us?" Commander Thekmore looked at her with those cold yellow eyes. "Entertainment," he said. "The Empire grows bored. We need new fighters for the arenas." "Fighters?" Dr. Yoon asked. "What arenas?" The alien commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "You will fight our beasts for the pleasure of our citizens, though I doubt you will last long. You are so small and weak." Taeho felt sick. They were going to be forced to fight monsters for sport, like gladiators in ancient Rome. But worse, one of the younger crew members, a girl named Ji-Yun Song, started crying. She was only 22 and pregnant with her first child. "Please," she begged, "I'm going to have a baby." Commander Thekmore looked at her belly with interest. "Even better. Pregnant prey always fights harder. The crowd will enjoy watching. You die." Taeho felt anger burning in his chest. These creatures were evil. They enjoyed causing pain and fear. But he forced himself to stay calm. Getting angry would not help anyone right now. The aliens forced the humans to walk to their ship. The vessel was huge inside, with corridors wide enough for the dragon-like creatures. The humans looked tiny in comparison. They were pushed into a cargo hold and locked inside. The room was dark and cold. Metal bars separated them from freedom. The humans huddled together, scared and unsure of what would happen next. "How long until someone notices we're missing?" Wu Jin asked. "Captain." Choi checked her watch. "The supply ship comes next month. 3 weeks." "We'll be dead by then," Bo-Ra said quietly. Taeho sat in the corner and thought. These aliens, the Vorthak, were confident and cruel. They saw humans as weak toys to be broken for fun. But they had made a mistake. They thought being small meant being helpless. Taeho remembered his grandfather's stories about the war in Korea. Small soldiers had defeated larger armies by being smart and using the enemy's size against them. Maybe the same could work here. He looked around the cargo hold, studying every detail: the walls, the floor, the ceiling, the door lock. His engineer's mind started working, cataloging information that might be useful later. The other humans were afraid, and they had good reason to be. But fear could be useful too. It could make people desperate enough to try impossible things. The ship rumbled as it left the asteroid. Through a small window, Taeho watched the mining station grow smaller and disappear. They were heading into deep space, toward an alien empire that wanted to watch them die. But Taeho was already planning. These dragon creatures had captured 11 humans thinking they were getting victims. They had no idea they had actually caught something much more dangerous. The Vorthak Empire was about to learn that humans had not reached the top of Earth's food chain by being weak. They had gotten there by being the smartest, most adaptable predators in the galaxy, and now they were coming to the aliens' home. The journey to the Vorthak homeworld took 5 days. During that time, the humans were given water and strange-tasting food that looked like gray paste. They were not allowed to leave the cargo hold. Taeho used the time to learn everything he could. He watched the guards when they brought food. He counted their footsteps to map the ship's layout. He listened to their conversations, trying to understand their language. The other crew members dealt with their fear in different ways. Captain So-Young Choi kept everyone organized and hopeful. Dr. Min-Ho Yoon checked on everyone's health. Bo-Ra Park exercised to stay strong. Woo Jin Lee tried to find ways to send messages, though the aliens had taken all their equipment. On the 5th day, the ship stopped. Through the small window, Taeho saw their destination. The planet Drakthar was massive, 3 times the size of Earth. Its surface was covered in dark cities that looked like giant fortresses. Tall spires reached up into the red sky. "Dear God," whispered Captain Choi, "how many of them are there?" The ship landed in what looked like a military port. Hundreds of other ships sat nearby, all black and spike-covered like the one that had captured them. This was clearly a warrior civilization. Guards came to take the humans from their prison. They were forced to walk through the ship and down a ramp onto the planet's surface. The gravity was heavier than Earth's, making every step harder. The air smelled like sulfur and smoke. The spaceport was enormous. Thousands of Vorthak moved around, loading and unloading ships. They were all huge and scary-looking, with scales and claws and cold eyes. When they saw the humans, they stopped, to stare and make sounds that might have been laughter. "Look at the tiny, soft skins," one said in broken English. "So small and weak." "They will not last one fight," said another. "The razor wings will eat them in seconds." The humans were loaded into a transport vehicle and driven through the city. Taeho looked out the windows at buildings that rose like mountains. Everything was built for creatures much larger than humans. The streets were wide enough for tanks. They passed markets where alien vendors sold weapons and armor. They saw training, grounds where young Vorthak practiced fighting with swords and spears. This entire civilization was built around war and combat. Finally, they reached their destination. The Grand Colosseum of Drakthar was the largest building Taeho had ever seen. It could hold millions of spectators. The walls were covered in carvings of battles and hunts. Inside, the humans were taken to the prisoner cells beneath the arena floor. The cells were small and dark, with metal bars and stone walls. They were designed for creatures much larger than humans, so at least they had room to move around. Other prisoners were already there. Taeho saw aliens from different worlds, all waiting to fight. Some looked like giant insects. Others were covered in fur or had multiple arms. All of them looked scared. An old alien with gray scales approached their cell. He had scars all over his body and was missing one eye. "You are the humans everyone is talking about," he said in rough English. "You speak our language?" Captain Choi asked. "I have been here for 5 years. I learned many languages. My name is Vextar. I was a trader before they captured me." He looked sad. "I have seen many species come and go. Most die in their first fight." "What do we have to fight?" Dr. Yoon asked. Vextar pointed to the ceiling. Above them they could hear the sounds of the arena. Roaring crowds, clashing metal, and inhuman screams. Beasts from across the galaxy. The Vorthak collect the most dangerous predators they can find. Razor-winged serpents, bone crushers, acid spitters, shadow stalkers. Some are natural, others are made in laboratories. Ji-Yun Song, the pregnant woman, started crying again. "We're all going to die." Taeho sat down and thought. The situation was bad, but not hopeless. These aliens had made assumptions about humans based on their size. They thought small meant weak. But humans had survived on Earth by being smart, not strong. The first fight came the next day. The guard selected Hyunwoo Nam, a young mining technician. He was scared, but tried to be brave as they took him away. The humans were allowed to watch from a viewing area behind bars. The arena was huge, with sand covering the floor and walls too high to climb. Thousands of Vorthak filled the seats, cheering and making bets. Hyunwoo was pushed into the center of the arena. He looked tiny and alone. The crowd laughed and pointed at him. Then a gate opened and the razor-winged serpent emerged. It was 20 feet long with a snake-like body but had wings like a bat. Its teeth dripped with acid, and its eyes glowed red. The crowd cheered louder. The beast flew toward Yunwu, expecting an easy kill. But the young human surprised everyone. He rolled away at the last second and grabbed a handful of sand. When the serpent came again, he threw the sand in its eyes. The creature shrieked and crashed into the arena wall. Yunwu ran to where old weapons lay scattered on the ground. He picked up a broken spear and used it to keep the serpent away. For over an hour, Yunwu fought. He used every piece of debris in the arena. He climbed walls and hid behind barriers. He made the serpent chase him until it was tired. The crowd grew quiet, watching in amazement. Finally, the serpent caught him. Its acid burned through his chest, and he fell to the sand. But he had lasted much longer than anyone expected. He had shown that humans could think and adapt under pressure. The arena fell silent. The Vorthak had expected a quick execution. Instead, they had seen something they did not understand. This small creature had used tools and strategy to fight a beast 10 times its size. Commander Thekmore stood in his viewing box, staring at Hyunwoo's body. "Interesting," he said to his aide. "Very interesting indeed." That night, back in their cell, the humans mourned their friend. But Tae-ho was thinking about what they had learned. The crowd's reaction told him something important. The Vorthak were not used to prey that fought back with intelligence. "Did you see how quiet they got?" he asked the others. "They were confused. Their beasts are used to fighting with claws and teeth. They don't know how to handle opponents who use tools and tactics." Captain Choi looked at him. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking these aliens have made a mistake. They think we're weak because we're small. But they don't understand what made humans the top predator on Earth." Dr. Yoon nodded slowly. "Our brains." "Exactly. Every human who fights gives us more information about their beasts and their arena. We can learn from each battle." Bo-Ra Park understood what he meant. "You want to study their tactics, not just study them. I want to beat them. These Vorthak think they're the ultimate warriors, but they've never faced an enemy that gets smarter with every defeat." The old trader Vextar had been listening. "You speak of hope, human, but I have seen thousands die in this arena. What makes you different?" Tae-ho looked up at the ceiling, where the sounds of the Vorthak city continued through the night. "We're different because we're not just fighting to survive. We're fighting to learn. And once we understand how this place works, we're going to tear it apart." His words were quiet, but they carried a promise that made even the scared aliens in nearby cells stop and listen. Something had changed. The humans were no longer just victims waiting to die. They were predators starting to hunt. Arena Master Velthok stood in his private viewing chamber, studying recordings of the human fights. In 30 years of running the Grand Colosseum, he had never seen anything like this. Most creatures fought with instinct. They used their natural weapons, claws, teeth, venom, strength. They were predictable. The crowd knew what to expect, and the beasts usually won quickly. But these humans were different. They had no natural weapons, yet they survived longer than creatures twice their size. They used the arena itself as a weapon. They turned debris into tools. They made the beasts chase them until the predators were tired and confused. "Fascinating," Velthok muttered, replaying the footage again. His assistant, a younger Vorthak, named Kolseth, stood nearby. "Master, the Emperor has requested a report on the human fighters. Tell him they are unlike anything we have seen before. They fight with their minds instead of their bodies." Down in the prisoner cells, Taeho was teaching the other humans everything he had learned from watching Hyunwoo's fight. He drew diagrams in the dirt floor, showing the arena layout and where weapons usually fell. The serpents are fast, but not smart, he explained. They attack in straight lines. If you can make them crash into walls, they get stunned for a few seconds. Captain Choi nodded. What about the bone crushers? Pack hunters. They try to surround their prey, but they're used to fighting animals that run in panic. If you move toward one while backing away from the others, you can break their formation. Dr. Yoon was impressed by Taeho's analysis. You figured all this out from watching one fight? Engineering training, Taeho said. You learn to see how systems work and find their weak points. These beasts are just biological machines. They all have weaknesses. The next day, the guards came for another human. This time, they wanted to take Ji-yeon Song, the pregnant woman. She was crying and begging them not to take her. Taeho stepped forward. Take me instead. The guards looked confused. In their experience, prisoners never volunteered to fight. They always had to be dragged kicking and screaming to the arena. Why do you want to die, small one? Asked the lead guard. Because I'm better at staying alive than she is, Taeho said calmly. The guards found this amusing. They grabbed Taeho and led him away, while the other humans watched with worry and hope. In the preparation chamber, Taeho was given basic leather armor and a short sword. The equipment was designed for much larger fighters, so it fit him poorly. But he did not complain. Arena Master Velthok came to see him personally. You volunteered to fight, the alien said. This is unusual. I volunteered to win, Taeho corrected. Velthok's yellow eyes studied the small human. You will face 3 bone crushers. They have killed 47 fighters in the past month. What makes you think you can defeat them? Taeho met the alien's gaze without fear. Because I understand them better than they understand me. When Taeho entered the arena, the crowd was larger than usual. Word had spread about the strange human fighters. Thousands of Vorthak wanted to see if this one would last as long as the first. The arena floor was covered with sand and scattered with weapons from previous fights. Broken spears, dented shields, rusted swords. Most fighters ignored these, relying on their natural abilities. Taeho immediately began collecting items. He grabbed a length of chain, some metal spikes, and a wooden club. The crowd laughed, thinking he was gathering trash. The 3 bone crushers were released from their cage. They were 4-legged predators, each the size of a large bear. Their jaws could crack stone, and they hunted as a coordinated pack. As expected, they spread out to surround Taeho. This was their standard tactic. One would attack from the front while the other 2 came from the sides, but Taeho did not run or panic like most prey. Instead, he moved directly toward the crusher on his left. The beast was surprised and stumbled backward, breaking the pack. Formation. Taeho used his chain like a whip, wrapping it around the confused animal's legs. When it fell, he drove metal spikes into the sand around it, creating a barrier. The creature was trapped. The other 2 crushers charged at him. Taeho rolled between them and they crashed into each other. While they were stunned, he climbed onto the back of one and used his sword to cut tendons in its neck. The beast collapsed, paralyzed but not dead. The 3rd crusher was wary now. It had seen 2 of its packmates defeated by tactics it did not understand. It circled Taeho, looking for an opening. Taeho picked up sand and threw it in the creature's face. When it was blinded, he used his wooden club to strike pressure points along its spine. The beast collapsed, unable to move its hind legs. The Entire fight had lasted less than 10 minutes. 3 of the arena's most successful predators lay defeated, and none of them were dead. Taeho had defeated them using only tactics, tools, and knowledge of anatomy. The arena was completely silent. 50,000 Vorthaks stared at the small human standing among the disabled beasts. No one knew what to think. Emperor Zorth-Ak himself stood up in his royal box. In 500 years of life, he had never seen anything like this. "Bring that human to me," he commanded. "Now!" Guards escorted Taeho from the arena to the Emperor's private chambers. The palace was enormous, with ceilings hundreds of feet high and corridors wide enough for armies to march through. The Emperor was the largest Vorthak Taeho had seen. His scales were black with gold edges, and his eyes glowed like fire. Ancient. Scars covered his body, proof of countless battles. "What are you?" the Emperor asked. "I'm an engineer from Earth," Taeho replied honestly. "No, I have studied many species across the galaxy. I know warriors, hunters, predators. You are something else. You fight like no creature I have ever seen." Taeho considered his answer carefully. "I fight like a human." "Explain." "Most species evolved natural weapons. Claws, teeth, venom, armor. Humans evolved something better. We evolved the ability to make any weapon we need and to think our way out of any situation." The Emperor leaned forward, interested. "You defeated 3 bone crushers without killing them." "Why?" "Because killing them would have been wasteful. They're just animals following their instincts. The real enemy is the system that forces them to fight." This answer clearly disturbed the Emperor. He was used to warriors who gloried in battle and death. This human spoke like a philosopher, but fought like a demon. "You will face my personal champion tomorrow," the Emperor decided. Dreadmaw has never been defeated. It was created specifically to kill the strongest fighters. "Then I'll have to be smarter than strong," Taeho said. That night, back in the cell, Taeho shared what he had learned. The Emperor was testing him, trying to understand what humans were capable of. "This is bigger than just surviving the arena," he told the others. "They're studying us to see if we're a threat to their empire." Captain Choi understood the implications. "If they decide we're dangerous, they'll try to destroy Earth before we can spread to other worlds," Taeho finished. "So we need to show them exactly how dangerous we really are." Dr. Yoon looked worried. "Won't that make things worse?" Taeho smiled grimly. "Sometimes the best defense is to be so scary that your enemies don't dare attack you. Tomorrow I'm going to show them what happens when you corner a human." The other prisoners in nearby cells had been listening. The old trader Vexitar spoke up. "Human, what you did today has never been done before. You have given hope to creatures who had forgotten what hope was." "Good," Taeho replied, "because tomorrow I'm going to give them something even better. I'm going to give them victory." As the arena fell quiet for the night, word spread through the prison levels. The human had not just survived, he had dominated. And tomorrow, he would face the ultimate test. The Vorthak Empire was about to learn that humans were not just clever prey. They were the galaxy's most dangerous predators, and they were just getting started. Emperor Zorthak could not sleep. He paced through his private chambers, thinking about the human engineer. In his long life, he had conquered dozens of worlds and faced thousands of warriors. None had disturbed him like this small, quiet creature. The human had not boasted or threatened. He had simply stated facts in a calm voice. This made him more frightening than any roaring beast. The Emperor called for his advisors. High Commander Yextar arrived first, followed by Arena Master Velthok and Intelligence Chief Mordak. "Tell me about the human homeworld," the Emperor commanded. Mordak activated a holographic display. Earth is a small blue planet in an unremarkable star system. The humans have barely begun exploring space. Their technology is primitive compared to ours. Then how did one of them defeat 3 bone crushers with nothing but arena debris? Velthok asked. The intelligence chief looked uncomfortable. "Perhaps it was luck." "3 times," the Emperor growled. "First one human fights a razorwing for over an hour. Then another defeats a pack of our best hunters. This is not luck. This is something else." Meanwhile, in the prison cells, Teho was preparing for his fight with Dreadmaw. He had spent the night talking to other prisoners, learning everything he could about the Emperor's champion. "Dreadmaw is not natural," explained Vextar. "The Vorthak scientists created it in their laboratories. It has the strength of a bone crusher, the speed of a razor wing, and the intelligence of a hunting cat. Worse, it learns from every fight." "How big is it?" Teho asked. 30 feet long, armored skin that deflects most weapons, claws that can cut through steel, and it enjoys causing pain. The scientists gave it emotions like a Vorthak warrior. Dr. Yoon looked worried. "Teho, maybe you should not fight this thing. We could find another way." "There is no other way," Teho replied. "The Emperor is testing us. If I run from this fight, he'll know humans can be intimidated. That would be bad for everyone on Earth." Captain Choi understood. "You're not just fighting for yourself. I'm fighting for our entire species. If I win, they'll respect us. If I lose," he shrugged, "well, at least you'll know what we're up against." The day of the fight, the arena was packed beyond capacity. Vorthak had traveled from across the Empire to see the human-faced Dreadmaw. Betting was heavy, with most odds favoring the creature to kill Teho in under a minute. In the preparation chamber, Teho was given his choice of weapons. He selected a long rope, a bag of metal ball bearings, and a small mirror. The guards looked puzzled by his choices. Arena Master Velthok came to see him one last time. "Human, you can still surrender. The Emperor might let you live as a curiosity." "And let my friends die in this arena?" "No thank you," Teho said, checking his equipment. "You truly believe you can defeat Dreadmaw?" Teho looked at the alien with calm eyes. "I don't believe it, I know it. Because that creature, no matter how smart it is still thinking like a predator. And I'm thinking like something much worse." "What could be worse than a predator?" "A human being." When Teho entered the arena, the crowd was deafening. 50,000 Vorthaks screamed for blood. They wanted to see the strange human torn apart by their ultimate champion. The arena had been modified for this special fight. The walls were higher and smoother, preventing climbing. Most of the debris had been removed, leaving only sand and a few scattered weapons. But Teho had expected this. He used his mirror to reflect sunlight into the crowd, studying their reactions. He scattered his ball bearings in specific patterns across the sand. He coiled his rope and tied knots at precise intervals. The crowd grew impatient with his preparations. They wanted action, not this quiet human doing strange things with simple tools. Then Dreadmaw was released. The creature was everything the prisoners had described and worse. Its body was like a massive lizard, but it moved with fluid grace. Its hide was black and seemed to absorb light. Intelligence gleamed in its red eyes as it studied Teho. But Teho did not look afraid. He stood calmly in the center of the arena, watching the beast circle him. This confused Dreadmaw. Every other opponent had shown fear. This one seemed almost bored. The creature attacked with lightning speed, expecting to end the fight quickly. But Taeho was already moving. He rolled away and came up behind a pile of ball bearings. When Dreadmaw's claws hit the metal spheres, it slipped and crashed into the arena wall. The crowd gasped. No one had ever made Dreadmaw look clumsy before. The creature was angry now. It charged again, more carefully this time. Taeho used his rope like a tripwire, causing the beast to stumble. While it was off balance, he used his mirror to flash reflected sunlight directly into its eyes. Dreadmaw roared in fury and pain. It had never been humiliated like this. The crowd was dead silent, watching their invincible champion being toyed, with by a creature 1/10 its size. For 3 hours the fight continued. But it was not really a fight. It was a lesson. Taeho never tried to hurt Dreadmaw physically. Instead, he attacked its mind. Every time the creature tried a new tactic, Taeho had a counter ready. Every attack was turned into embarrassment. The proud predator began to doubt itself, then fear itself, then hate itself. By the end, Dreadmaw was cowering in the corner of the arena. The most feared beast in the Empire was reduced to a whimpering, broken animal. Taeho had not killed it. He had done something much worse. He had destroyed its spirit completely. The arena was so quiet, you could hear individual heartbeats. The Emperor stood slowly in his royal box, staring at the scene below. Taeho walked to the center of the arena and looked up at the royal box. His voice carried clearly in the silence. Your Majesty asked me what I am. I am a human being. My species did not evolve claws or scales or venom. We evolved something much more dangerous. We evolved the ability to break any system, solve any problem, and defeat any enemy. He gestured to the broken creature in the corner. Your champion was created to be the perfect killer. But humans have been killing perfect killers since we lived in caves. We drove saber-toothed cats extinct with pointed sticks. We hunted mammoths to death with rocks and teamwork. The Emperor found his voice. What do you want? I want you to understand what you have done. You have captured members of the species that conquered an entire planet not through strength or speed, but through intelligence and adaptability. You have brought us to the heart of your empire and shown us your weaknesses. Taeho's voice grew colder. You think you are the ultimate predators, but you have never faced anything like us. We are the species that turns predators into prey. We are the creatures that other creatures have nightmares about. He pointed to the watching crowd. Look at them. They came here to see blood and death. Instead, they saw their greatest champion reduced to a terrified animal without suffering a single wound. That is what humans do. We do not just defeat our enemies. We make them defeat themselves. Emperor Zorthak felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Genuine fear. This small creature was not boasting or threatening. He was explaining calmly and factually why the Vorthak Empire had made a terrible mistake. What happens now? The Emperor asked. Taeho smiled, and for the first time, it was not a nice smile. Now you learn what it means to have humans as enemies, because that is what we are now. You declared war on us the moment you attacked our mining station. The silence stretched on as 50,000 Vorthak absorbed the implications of what they had just witnessed. Their empire had captured what they thought were weak prey animals. Instead, they had awakened something that would haunt their nightmares for generations to come. In the royal box, the Emperor made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "Guards," he said quietly. "Take the human back to his cell. We need to talk." High Commander Yexatar stood before a massive holographic display in the Imperial Intelligence Center. His claws clicked nervously against the control panel as data about the human homeworld scrolled past his eyes. What he was reading made his scales itch with fear. "This cannot be correct," he muttered to his aide. "Run the analysis again." Intelligence Officer Cathvar double-checked the data. "The information is accurate, sir. I have verified it through 17 different sources." Yextar stared at the display showing Earth's history. According to their records, humans had appeared on their planet only 200,000 years ago. But in that brief time, they had done something unprecedented. They had driven over 65% of large predator species to extinction. "Show me the details on the Pleistocene extinctions," Yextar commanded. The display changed to show massive creatures that had once lived on Earth. Giant bears twice the size of bone crushers. Saber-toothed cats with fangs like swords. Cave lions that could take down elephants, all extinct, all killed by tiny humans with primitive weapons. "Sir," Cathvar said quietly, "the humans did not just hunt these creatures for food. The data suggests they eliminated them because they were competition for territory and resources." Yextar felt his blood run cold. "They committed genocide against their planet's apex predators?" "Multiple genocides, sir. And then, when they realized what they had done, they felt guilty about it. They created something called conservation efforts to save the remaining species. This was worse than Yextar had feared. The humans were not just efficient killers. They were killers with consciences who could feel remorse for their actions. This made them unpredictable and therefore more dangerous. Meanwhile, in the prison cells beneath the arena, Tae-Ho was sharing information with his fellow humans. But they were not just talking among themselves anymore. Other prisoners were listening and learning. Chief Engineer Daeun Kim had been working on a small device she had built from scraps of metal and wire. "I managed to tap into their communication system," she whispered. "Just basic stuff, but I can hear some of their conversations." Communications Officer Jae-Sung Park leaned closer. "What are they saying?" "They're scared," Da-Un replied. "The fight with Dreadmaw has them questioning everything they thought they knew about us." Captain So Young Choi looked at Tae-Ho with admiration and worry. "You really shook them up out there. But what happens when they decide we're too dangerous to keep alive? Then we make sure they understand that killing us would be an even bigger mistake," Tae-Ho answered. Dr. Min-Ho Yoon had been quiet for most of the conversation. Now he spoke up. "Tae-Ho, I've been thinking about what you said in the arena, about humans being different from other predators. You're right, but there's something else." "What?" "We're not just individual hunters. We're a collective intelligence. Every human death in this arena has been teaching the rest of us. We've been gathering data on their technology, their weaknesses, their psychology." Bo-Ra Park understood immediately. "We're not prisoners anymore. We're reconnaissance troops." "Exactly. And soon that information is going to reach Earth." In the Imperial Intelligence Center, High Commander Yextar was discovering this same horrifying truth. The humans had not been trying to escape or rescue. Their companions. They had been studying the Vorthak Empire from the inside. "Sir," Cathvar reported, "we have detected unauthorized transmissions from the prison levels." "What kind of transmissions?" "Data packets, engineering specifications of our ships, tactical information about our military, psychological profiles of our leadership. The humans have been sending intelligence reports. Yextar's worst fears were confirmed. To whom? Unknown, sir. The signals are too weak to trace, but based on the transmission patterns, they appear to be aimed toward the human homeworld. The High Commander realized they were facing something unprecedented. Most species fought as individuals, even when working in groups. But humans seem to share information automatically, like cells in a single organism. How long have they been transmitting? Since the day they arrived, sir. Every fight, every conversation, every weakness they have observed has been recorded and sent. Governor Morthek of the Outer Colonies chose that moment to contact the capital with disturbing news. His image appeared on the holographic display, his scales pale with worry. High Commander, we have a situation in the frontier arenas. The human gladiators are not just surviving, they are winning consistently and teaching other slaves their techniques. Explain. The humans refuse to kill their opponents. Instead, they disable them using methods we do not understand. Worse, they are sharing these methods with prisoners from other species. We now have organized resistance in 17 different facilities. Yextar felt the weight of impending disaster. How many humans are fighting in the outer colonies? 43, sir. And every one of them fights like the engineer who defeated Dreadmaw. This was the moment Yextar understood the true scope of their mistake. The Vorthak had not captured 12 random humans from a mining station. They had captured a cross-section of human society. Engineers, doctors, soldiers, scientists, technicians. Each human brought different knowledge and skills. But they all shared the same fundamental trait, the ability to analyze any situation and find a way to win. Security Chief Kolvar burst into the intelligence center with more bad news. Sir, someone tried to poison the human prisoners with nethak gas. Did it work? No, sir. Their doctor not only survived the exposure, but synthesized an antidote using materials from the prison kitchen. He then distributed the antidote to prisoners throughout the facility. Yextar stared at the security chief. He created an antidote from kitchen supplies? Yes, sir. According to our medical staff, it should have been impossible. But the human doctor understands biochemistry in ways our scientists do not. The High Commander turned back to the display showing Earth's history. Now he understood what he was looking at. The humans had not just survived on their planet. They had optimized it. They had eliminated threats, managed resources, and turned an entire world into a support system for their species. And now they were doing the same thing to the Vorthak Empire. Sir, Kethvar said quietly, there is something else. Emperor Zorthak has requested a private meeting with the human engineer. When? Now, sir. In the Emperor's private chambers, Teho sat calmly while the most powerful being in the galaxy paced back and forth like a caged animal. My intelligence officers tell me your people have been gathering information about our empire, the Emperor said. Of course we have, Teho replied. That's what humans do. We observe, we learn, we adapt. To what purpose? Survival. You captured us and brought us here to fight for your entertainment. We turned that into an opportunity to study your civilization and identify its weaknesses. Emperor Zorthak stopped pacing. What weaknesses? Teho smiled. Your entire empire is built around the idea that strength equals power. But you've never faced an enemy that gets stronger by being defeated. Every human who dies in your arenas teaches the survivors something new. You speak as if you are part of some greater organism. In a way, we are. Humans share information automatically. What one of us learns, all of us can use. Your empire has been teaching us how to destroy it, one fight at a time. The Emperor felt a chill run down his spine. You are threatening me. I'm explaining to you what you have already done. By capturing humans and studying us, you have given us the opportunity to capture and study you. The only question now is what we do with that information. Outside the palace, across the Empire, and in the depths of space, human rescue ships were already moving. They had received the intelligence reports. They knew exactly where their people were and what they were facing. But more importantly, they now knew everything they needed to know about the Vorthak Empire. The hunters had become the hunted, and they did not even realize it yet. News traveled fast across the Vorthak Empire, and none of it was good. Governor Morthek stood in his office on the frontier world of Kethdar, staring at reports from 17 different prison colonies. His hands shook as he read each one. Arena. Complex 7, human gladiator defeated 6 acid spitters without taking damage, refused to kill them. Other prisoners now demanding to learn human tactics. Arena Complex 12. Human fighter turned gladiatorial combat into teaching session, showed other slaves how to disable guard weapons. Security protocols compromised. Arena Complex 23. 3 human engineers escaped containment, freed 400 prisoners, and captured the facility's entire vehicle depot. Current location unknown. How is this possible? Morthek asked his aide. Humans are supposed to be weak prey animals. Sir, his aide replied nervously. Perhaps we should contact the capital for instructions. But when Morthek tried to reach the Imperial Palace, he discovered that communication lines were being systematically disrupted across the Empire. Someone was targeting their communication networks with surgical precision. On the capital world, Tejo had become the most feared gladiator in the Empire's history, but his reputation was not built on violence. Instead, he had done something that terrified the Vorthak more than any amount of bloodshed. He had made their entertainment boring. Arena. Master Velthok paced in his office, looking at attendance figures that dropped lower each day. The crowds are not coming, he told his assistant. They used to pack the arena to see blood and death. Now they stay home because they know the human will just embarrass another champion. What about using different beasts, Master? Perhaps something the human has not seen before? We tried that. Yesterday we brought in a void stalker from the Dark Nebula. It is invisible, silent, and kills with psychic attacks. The human defeated it by playing music and making it dance until it was exhausted. The assistant looked confused. How does one make a void stalker dance? I still do not understand it myself. The human used some kind of rhythm that confused the creature's psychic abilities. The crowd spent 3 hours watching our most terrifying predator perform what looked like a children's game. But the real horror was spreading beyond the arenas. In the capital's maximum security prison, Security Chief Kolvar was dealing with an unprecedented crisis. Chief, his lieutenant reported, the humans are refusing to kill opponents again. So what? We have dealt with pacifist prisoners before. No, sir. You do not understand. They are not just refusing to kill, they are actively healing the creatures they defeat. The prison medical bay is full of recovered gladiatorial beasts that now follow the humans around like pets. Kolvar felt his scales prickle with unease. Show me. In the prison's common area, an impossible sight greeted them. Tejo sat calmly reading a technical manual while 3 bone crushers lay at his feet like sleeping dogs. A razor-wing serpent. was coiled around his shoulders, and 2 shadow stalkers flanked him like bodyguards. "Dear ancestors," Kolvar whispered, "he has turned our execution beasts into a personal army." Dr. Min Ho Yoon was nearby, treating injuries on a massive acid spitter. The creature, which should have been trying to melt the human with its digestive fluids, instead purred like a content cat while the doctor worked. "How?" Kolvar demanded of his lieutenant. The humans studied the creature's psychology and biology. They learned that most of the aggression was caused by pain, fear, and artificial stimulants in their food. Remove those factors, and the beasts revert to their natural behavior, which is, most of them are actually quite gentle, sir. The Vorthak scientists had been torturing them to make them vicious. This revelation struck Kolvar like a physical blow. The Empire's entire gladiatorial system was based on forcing peaceful creatures to become killers through abuse and chemical manipulation, and the humans had figured this out in a matter of weeks. Meanwhile, in space, the first human rescue ships were entering Vorthak territory. But these were not military vessels coming for war. They were research ships, diplomatic vessels, and medical frigates. Admiral Jin A. Seo stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Harmony, studying tactical displays of the Vorthak Empire. Her crew was small, but highly specialized. Every person on board was an expert in their field. "Analysis report," she requested. Lieutenant Yejin Lim looked up from her console. "Based on the intelligence reports from our people in the arenas, the Vorthak Empire has significant structural weaknesses." "Explain." "Their entire civilization is built around a warrior culture that values individual strength over collective intelligence. They have no experience dealing with coordinated resistance or adaptive tactics." Navigator Dong-Wook Han added his own observations. "Their ships are heavily armed but poorly defended against electronic warfare. Their communication systems use outdated encryption that our computers can break in minutes." Admiral Seo nodded. "What about their military capabilities?" "Impressive in direct combat, but they rely on intimidation and overwhelming force. They have never faced an enemy that gets stronger when attacked." Pilot Sung Hwan Oh raised his hand. "Admiral, we are receiving a priority transmission from the capital world." "From our people?" "No, ma'am. From the Vorthak Emperor himself." The message was brief and desperate. "Human Fleet Commander, I request immediate negotiations. The situation has become problematic." Admiral Seo smiled grimly. "Open a channel." Emperor Zorthak appeared on the screen, looking haggard and exhausted. His once proud scales were dull, and his eyes held a haunted expression. "Human Admiral," he began without ceremony, "your people are destroying my empire." "How so, Your Majesty? From our reports, they are simply defending themselves in your arenas." "They are doing far more than that. They have turned our entertainment into education, our predators into pets, our prisoners into revolutionaries. Entire colonies are in revolt because other species learned human tactics." Admiral Seo kept her expression neutral. "And this concerns us how? Because it proves you were right. Humans are not prey animals. You are something far more dangerous." "What are we, in your opinion?" The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was filled with a mixture of fear and respect. "You are what we pretended to be, true apex predators. Not because you are the strongest or fastest, but because you can turn any situation to your advantage." "An interesting observation. What do you propose to do about it?" "I want to negotiate the release of your people and a peace treaty between our civilizations." Admiral Seo looked at her crew, who all nodded in agreement. But her next words chilled the Emperor to his core. "I'm afraid it's too late for that, Your Majesty." "What do you mean?" "You see, when you captured our mining crew, you made a strategic error. You showed us that your empire exists, and that it poses a potential threat to human expansion into space." The Emperor felt the weight of impending doom. "You intend to attack us?" "Oh, no. We intend to do something much more efficient. We are going to make you irrelevant." "I do not understand." Admiral Seo's smile was not reassuring. "You will. Every species you have enslaved is now learning human techniques. Every world you control is experiencing organized resistance. Your entire empire is being systematically dismantled from within. By a handful of prisoners? By 12 humans who understood that the best way to defeat a predator is to make it destroy itself." The transmission ended, leaving Emperor Zorthak staring at a blank screen. Around him, his palace shook as reports came in from across the empire. Rebellions, escapes, and systematic failures were occurring on every world. The Vorthak Empire was collapsing, and it had all started with a single human engineer who refused to be afraid of dragons. In the arena's prison cells, Taiho looked up at the ceiling as the sounds of revolution echoed through the capital. His fellow humans gathered around him, along with dozens of freed prisoners from other species. "Is it working?" Captain Choi asked. Taiho smiled. "Better than I hoped. We did not just beat their gladiators. We beat their entire way of thinking. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you tried to cage humanity. The answer was simple. Humanity cages you back. The Grand Tournament of Drakthar was supposed to be the most spectacular event in Vorthak history. Emperor Zorthak had planned it as a celebration of his empire's power, bringing together the most dangerous gladiators from across the galaxy for one final bloody festival. Instead, it became the day his empire died. Pilot Seong Hwan. Oh crouched in the maintenance tunnels beneath the arena, his hands working quickly on a mass of wires and circuits. For weeks, he had been studying the security systems during his daily cleaning duties. Now he was putting that knowledge to use. "How much longer?" whispered Communications Officer Jae-Sung Park. 2 minutes, Xiong Hwan replied. "The emergency lockdown will activate during the opening ceremony. Every cell door, every security barrier, every containment field will shut down simultaneously." Above them, 50,000 Vorthak filled the arena seats, eager to see blood and death. They had no idea that their entertainment was about to become their nightmare. In the preparation chambers, Taiho addressed the assembled prisoners. They were not just humans anymore. Over the months, he had taught his techniques to captured warriors from dozens of species. Insectoid Kethri, crystalline Vortak, gas form Nethari, all had learned to fight like humans. "Remember," he told them, "we are not here for revenge. We are here for freedom. Disable your opponents, do not kill them. Take their weapons, but do not take their lives. Show the galaxy that there is a better way to fight." Captain So-Young Choi nodded. "What about the guards? Same rules apply. These creatures are products of their culture. Given the chance, many of them might choose a different path." Dr. Min-Ho Yoon checked his improvised medical supplies. "I'll set up triage stations as we advance. Some of our people are going to get hurt." "That's why we have to move fast," Taiho said. "Speed and coordination will be our advantages." In the arena above, Emperor Zorthak stood to address the crowd. His voice boomed across the Colosseum as he spoke of glory, honor, and The superiority of Vorthak warriors. He never finished his speech. Every light in the arena went out simultaneously. Emergency systems failed. Security doors opened with grinding mechanical sounds. In the darkness, the sound of marching feet echoed from the prison levels. The crowd's cheers turned to confused murmurs, then to screams of terror as they realized what was happening. "Ladies and gentlemen," Tejo's voice rang out over the arena's public address system, "today's entertainment will be slightly different than advertised." Emergency lighting flickered on, revealing an impossible sight. Hundreds of former prisoners stood in the arena, organized in perfect military formation. They wore captured guard armor and carried Vorthak weapons, but they moved with human discipline and tactics. At their head stood Tejo, no longer looking like a prisoner. He carried himself like a general, and the freed gladiators followed his commands without question. "Citizens of the Vorthak Empire," he continued, his voice calm and clear, "you have spent centuries watching creatures fight and die for your entertainment. Today you will learn what it feels like to be the ones in the cage." Tactical Officer Ye-Jin Lim emerged from the tunnel systems with a squad of former prisoners. They had captured the arena's control room and were systematically shutting down security throughout the facility. Navigator Dong-Wook Han led another group to the vehicle depot. Within minutes, they had hot-wired a dozen transport ships and were loading rescued prisoners aboard. But this was not just an escape. It was a coordinated military operation that would have impressed generals on 100 different worlds. "Perimeter secure," reported Bo-Ra Park over the captured communication system. "All exit routes are under our control." "Medical stations operational," added Dr. Yoon. "Casualties are minimal, mostly guard injuries from non-lethal takedowns." Emperor Zorthak watched in horror from his royal box as his capital's most secure facility was taken apart with surgical precision. These were not random prisoners rioting in desperation. This was an army executing a carefully planned mission. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his guards. "Sire," one of them replied, "the humans have been planning this for months. Every routine, every guard rotation, every security weakness. They cataloged it all." Chief Engineer Da-Eun Kim appeared on the arena floor, leading a group of technicians from various species. They were not just stealing Vorthak technology, they were improving it in real time. "Look at this," she called to Tejo, holding up a modified energy weapon. "Their power cells are terribly inefficient. I've increased the output by 40% and reduced the recharge time by half." "Can you teach others to make these modifications?" Tejo asked. "Already am. We'll have a full production line running within the hour." This was what truly terrified the watching Vorthak. The humans were not just escaping, they were turning their own technology against them and making it better in the process. Security Chief Kolvar tried to organize a counterattack, but his forces were in complete disarray. Every time his guards moved to retake an area, they found that the humans had anticipated their tactics and prepared counters. "They know our battle plans better than we do," he reported to the Emperor. "It is as if they can read our minds." "Because they can." Tejo's voice came over the communication system. "We have been watching you for months, learning your patterns, studying your psychology. You are as predictable as the beasts you forced to fight." The arena had become a staging ground for liberation. Ships arrived and departed in perfectly timed waves carrying freed prisoners to safety. But they were not just running away. They were spreading revolution across the empire. "Attention all Vorthak military commanders," Tejo broadcast on all frequencies. "Your prisoners are free. Your arenas are captured. Your entertainment industry is finished. But this is not an invasion. This is an intervention. Communications Officer Jae-Sung Park coordinated the information warfare campaign. Every screen in the Empire suddenly showed footage of human gladiators defeating champions without killing them, of former prey animals working together in perfect harmony, of entire worlds choosing cooperation over domination. We offer you a choice, Taeho continued. You can fight us and lose everything you have built, or you can learn from us and build something better. Governor Morthek, watching from his frontier world, made the first choice. This is Governor Morthek of Kethdar Colony. I am ordering all arena operations to cease immediately. I wish to negotiate with the human leaders. Other governors followed. Quickly, across the Empire, Vorthak commanders were choosing surrender over suicide. Emperor Zorthak realized that his throne was crumbling beneath him. But when he looked at Taeho standing calmly in the arena below, he saw something that gave him hope. The human was not gloating. He was not cruel. He looked like someone who had completed a difficult but necessary job and was ready to help clean up the aftermath. Human, the Emperor called down. What do you want from us? Taeho looked up at the royal box. We want you to stop being predators and start being people. Your empire has the resources and technology to help every species in this part of the galaxy prosper. Instead, you use them to create suffering for entertainment. And if we refuse, then we will do what we always do when faced with a dangerous predator. We will make you extinct. The words were spoken quietly, without anger or malice. But every Vorthak in the arena understood that this was not a threat. It was a simple statement of fact. However, Taeho continued, we would prefer to help you evolve into something better. The choice is yours. As if summoned by his words, human ships appeared in the sky above the capital, not warships bristling with weapons, but vessels designed for construction, medical aid, and education. Admiral Jin-I Seo's voice came over the communication system. This is the human diplomatic fleet. We are here to assist in the peaceful transition of the Vorthak Empire into a cooperative galactic community. Emperor Zorthak looked at his advisors, at his broken security forces, at the liberated prisoners, who were already working to repair damage from the escape operation. I surrender, he said simply. Not just this battle, but the entire war. We surrender unconditionally to human authority. Taeho nodded. Good. Now let's get to work building something better. As the sun set over Drakthar, the age of the Vorthak Empire ended. The age of galactic cooperation was about to begin, and it had all started with one human engineer who refused to be afraid of dragons. 3 months after the fall of the Grand Arena, the Vorthak capital world looked like a completely different place. Where once massive war monuments had celebrated conquest and domination, new structures rose that honored cooperation and learning. Admiral Jin-I Seo stood in what had once been Emperor Zorthak's throne room, now converted into a diplomatic meeting hall. Representatives from 47 different species sat around a circular table, discussing trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. The transformation had happened faster than anyone thought possible. Status report, Admiral Seo requested from her aide. Fleet Admiral Kyung-Soo Ryu consulted his datapad. The former Vorthak territories are stabilizing ahead of schedule. Crime rates are down 70%. Agricultural production is up 200%. Most importantly, we have had 0 requests for military intervention. How is that possible so quickly? The same reason the Empire fell so quickly. The Vorthak were very good at organization and logistics. They just used those skills for war instead of peace. Now that they are using them constructively, the results are remarkable. But Admiral Seo knew the real reason for the rapid change. In the corner of the room, Tae-ho Kim sat quietly reviewing technical specifications for a new hospital complex. He looked exactly like what he was, an engineer doing his job. Most of the universe still did not understand what had really happened. Here, former Emperor Zorthok, now serving as a regional administrator, approached the human admiral. His once proud bearing had been replaced by something that looked almost like relief. "Admiral," he said, "I have been reviewing the casualty reports from the liberation. And, in the conquest of my entire empire, fewer than 300 beings died. Most of those were accidents or medical emergencies, not combat deaths. How did you defeat a galactic power with almost no bloodshed?" Admiral Seo looked at Tae-ho, who was still focused on his work. "Because we did not come here to defeat you. We came here to fix you." "I do not understand the difference. Most species fight to destroy their enemies. Humans fight to solve problems. Your empire was a problem, so we solved it." Zorthak still looked confused. But the speed, the efficiency, the complete coordination across thousands of light years, that is just how we work. When humans identify a threat to our species, we mobilize completely. Every human in the galaxy becomes part of the solution. The former emperor thought about this. How many humans participated in the liberation? Admiral Seo checked her records. Active military personnel, about 12,000. But if you count everyone who contributed, engineers designing new infrastructure, doctors preparing medical aid, teachers developing educational programs, farmers planning food distribution, children drawing welcome pictures for refugee camps. How many? All of them. Every human in known space contributed something to this operation. Zorthak felt that familiar chill run down his spine. Your entire species mobilized to help people they had never met? Of course. That is what we do. Across the room, Communications Officer Jae-sung Park was explaining human organizational principles to a group of fascinated aliens. "The key is redundancy and adaptation," he said. "Every human learns multiple skills so we can fill different roles as needed. And we share information freely so everyone can contribute their best ideas." A Kethri representative raised a chitinous claw. "But how do you prevent conflicts between different human groups?" "We argue all the time," Jae-sung admitted with a smile. "Humans disagree about almost everything. But when we face an external threat, those differences become strengths. Each perspective helps us see solutions others might miss." In the medical center that had once been a gladiator training facility, Dr. Min-ho Yoon was teaching former arena beasts to be therapy animals. The same creatures that had once been forced to kill for entertainment now helped traumatized prisoners recover from their experiences. "The bone crushers are particularly good with anxiety cases," he explained to his Vorthak assistant. "Their natural pack instincts make them excellent at providing emotional support." "But they were created to be killers," the assistant protested. "No, they were tortured into being killers. There is a difference. Remove the torture, treat their medical conditions, and they revert to their natural gentle behavior." This conversation was happening throughout the former empire. Humans were systematically identifying the root causes of problems and fixing them, rather than just treating symptoms. But the real revelation came during a meeting of the new Galactic Cooperation Council. Fleet Admiral Kyung-Soo Ryu was presenting the final assessment of the Vorthak situation to representatives from across the galaxy. The Vorthak Empire surrender was unconditional and complete, he reported. However, based on our analysis, we do not recommend accepting it. The room erupted in confusion. Delegates from dozens of species began talking at once. "Please explain," requested the Altarian ambassador. "If they have surrendered, why not accept?" Fleet Admiral Ryu activated a holographic display showing the former Empire's territories. "Because surrender implies that we are conquering them. We are not conquerors. We are problem solvers." "What is the difference?" asked the Centaurian delegate. "A conqueror takes control of territory and resources. A problem solver identifies why the territory was problematic and fixes the underlying issues." Taeho stood up from his corner. For the first time in the meeting, he looked directly at the assembled delegates. The Vorthak Empire was not evil, because Vorthaks are evil beings, he said quietly. It was evil because it was based on a false premise, that strength comes from dominating others. He walked to the holographic display and pointed to various systems. "Look at the agricultural worlds that were strip-mined for resources, the populations that were enslaved for labor, the cultures that were destroyed for entertainment. None of this was necessary." "What do you mean?" asked the Vegan representative. The Vorthak Empire controlled enough resources to make every world in their territory a paradise. Instead, they wasted those resources on weapons and arenas. The problem was not a lack of resources, it was inefficient allocation. Captain So Young, Choi joined him at the display. "So we did not conquer the Empire. We optimized it." "But that sounds even more terrifying," whispered the Procyon delegate. Admiral Seo understood their fear. "You are afraid because you realize that if humans can completely reorganize a galactic empire in 3 months, we could do the same to any civilization in the galaxy." "Could you?" asked the Altarian ambassador. "If we needed to, yes, but we would prefer not to need to." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Every delegate was calculating how long their own civilization might last if humans decided it was a problem that needed solving. Taeho seemed to read their thoughts. "You are wondering if you are safe from us." Nervous nodding from around the table. "The answer is simple. As long as your civilizations do not threaten human survival or the well-being of innocent beings, we have no reason to interfere with you. We are not interested in conquest or domination." "Then what do you want?" asked the Vegan representative. Taeho smiled, and for the first time, it was a completely warm and friendly expression. "We want to go home and get back to work. This whole situation has been a distraction from our real projects, which are building better hospitals, designing more efficient farms, exploring distant galaxies, creating art and music and literature. You know, normal stuff." The delegates looked at each other in confusion. This was not how galactic superpowers were supposed to behave. "You conquered an empire and you consider it a distraction?" the Centaurian delegate asked. "We did not conquer anything," Taeho corrected. "We solved a problem. The Vorthak Empire was causing suffering across the galaxy. Now it is not. Problem solved." "And now you will just leave?" asked the Procyon delegate. "Why would we stay? The people here can run their own worlds. They just needed to be shown a better way to do it." Former Emperor Zorthak stood up slowly. "May I address the council?" Admiral Seo nodded permission. 3 months ago, I ruled the largest military empire in this sector of the galaxy. I commanded fleets that could destroy star systems. I controlled resources that could feed billions of worlds. He paused, looking around the room at representatives who had once feared his name. I thought I was the apex predator in the galaxy. I thought the Vorthak were the ultimate evolutionary success. Strong, ruthless, capable of dominating any enemy. His voice grew quieter. Then 12 humans were captured by one of my raiding parties. 12 individuals from a species I had never heard of, armed with nothing but their intelligence and their refusal to give up. The room was completely silent. In less than 6 months, those 12 humans dismantled my empire without firing a single shot in anger. They turned my gladiators into teachers, my prisoners into revolutionaries, my weapons into tools of construction. Zorthak looked directly at Tejo. I finally understand what I was looking at in those arena fights. I thought I was watching a small prey animal fight for its life, but I was actually watching something far more terrifying. What was that? Asked the Altarian ambassador. A human being solving a problem. The former emperor's words hung in the air like a physical presence.